Have you ever heard a conspiracy theory and thought, there's no way that's true? Well, what if I told you that some of the most shocking theories have been proven real? From secret government programs to hidden agendas, these stories will blow your mind. Get ready to uncover the top 10 conspiracy theories that turned out to be true. And trust me, number 1 will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew. Welcome back to the channel, your go-to source for unraveling mysteries, exploring hidden truths, and diving deep into the unexplained. Today we're venturing into the world of conspiracy theories. Except these aren't just theories. We're counting down 10 conspiracies that were once dismissed as wild speculation, but have since been proven true. From secret experiments to global scandals, these stories will have you questioning how much we're really told. 10. The MKUltra Mind Control Program. We're kicking things off with MKUltra, one of the most infamous secret programs in U.S. history. MKUltra was a covert CIA program initiated in the early 1950s with the goal of researching mind control and behavioral manipulation techniques, often through the use of drugs, hypnosis, and other psychological experiments. The program was conducted under the guise of exploring ways to counteract communist brainwashing techniques during the Cold War. However, MKUltra's scope was far broader and more sinister than initially believed. One of the program's most infamous experiments involved the administration of LSD to unwitting subjects, including military personnel, mental patients, and even ordinary civilians, without their consent or knowledge. The CIA hoped to discover ways to manipulate thoughts, create Manchurian candidates, individuals who could be controlled to perform actions against their will, and test methods for inducing amnesia and obedience. Many of the subjects suffered long-term psychological effects, and several researchers were disturbed by the ethical implications of the experiments. The program was kept secret for years, but its existence was exposed in the 1970s during investigations by the Church Committee and the Rockefeller Commission. Declassified documents revealed the full extent of MKUltra, leading to public outrage. Although the program was officially terminated in 1973, the revelations sparked a broader debate about government secrecy, human rights violations, and the ethical limits of scientific research, and MKUltra remains a dark chapter in the history of U.S. intelligence operations. The legacy of MKUltra continues to fuel conspiracy theories and mistrust of government experiments on human subjects. For decades, rumors swirled about unethical human experiments, but the government denied everything. That changed in 1975 when a congressional investigation exposed the truth. Declassified documents revealed the full scope of MKUltra, sparking public outrage. Many records were destroyed before they could be reviewed, so we may never know the full extent of what happened. 9. Big Tobacco's cover-up. Next up at number 9, we have the tobacco industry's shocking cover-up. The Big Tobacco cover-up is one of the most egregious examples of corporate malfeasance and public manipulation in modern history. For decades, tobacco companies intentionally downplayed the dangers of smoking, despite internal research that confirmed the harmful health effects of nicotine and tobacco. As early as the 1950s, cigarette manufacturers knew that smoking caused cancer, heart disease, and lung damage, but they went to great lengths to suppress this information from the public. In the 1960s and 1970s, they conducted covert campaigns to undermine scientific studies and discredit health experts who spoke out against smoking. They also funded misleading research that falsely suggested a link between smoking and health issues was inconclusive, leading to widespread confusion. One of the most notorious tactics was the creation of front groups and paid spokespeople to push the narrative that smoking was not harmful and could even be beneficial. The public's trust was eroded when tobacco industry documents were leaked in the 1990s, revealing that executives had known for years about the dangers of smoking, but deliberately withheld the information. In 1998, a landmark settlement with several U.S. states required tobacco companies to pay billions in damages, leading to tougher regulations on advertising and smoking warnings. However, despite these revelations, the tobacco industry's influence over public policy remained, and the full public reckoning over the harms of smoking continues today. Internal documents released during lawsuits in the 1990s revealed that the industry had deliberately hidden this information for decades. They even manipulated scientific research and marketing to downplay the risks. This conspiracy not only harmed public health, but also shattered trust in corporate transparency. It's a chilling reminder of how far companies will go to protect profits. 8. The Gulf of Tonkin incident. Coming in at number 8 is the Gulf of Tonkin incident, the event that escalated the Vietnam War. The Gulf of Tonkin incident, which occurred in August 1964, played a pivotal role in escalating the Vietnam War and drawing the United States more deeply into the conflict. The incident involved 2 alleged attacks on U.S. Navy ships, the USS Maddox and the USS Turner Joy, by North Vietnamese torpedo boats in the Gulf of Tonkin, off the coast of North Vietnam. Initially, the U.S. government claimed that the attacks were unprovoked and that American ships had been in international waters, thus justifying retaliatory airstrikes and further military intervention. The Gulf of Tonkin Resolution, passed by Congress just days after the incident, granted President Lyndon B. Johnson the authority to use military force in Vietnam without a formal declaration of war, leading to a significant escalation of U.S. involvement. However, declassified documents and later investigations revealed that the second attack, which was the primary justification for the resolution, was likely either exaggerated or completely fabricated. In reality, there was no clear evidence that North Vietnamese boats had attacked the American ships during the second encounter. This manipulation of the facts raised serious questions about the government's transparency and its willingness to deceive the public to justify military escalation. The Gulf of Tonkin incident and its aftermath marked the beginning of a prolonged and controversial U.S. military engagement in Vietnam, contributing to widespread skepticism and distrust of the government during the later years of the war. This revelation added fuel to anti-war protests and deepened public skepticism about government motives during wartime. 7. Watergate Scandal. At number 7, we have the Watergate Scandal, one of the most infamous political conspiracies in history. The Watergate scandal remains one of the most significant political scandals in American history, leading to the resignation of President Richard Nixon in 1974. It all began in June 1972, when 5 men broke into the headquarters of the Democratic National Committee at the Watergate complex in Washington, D.C., attempting to wiretap phones and steal documents to aid Nixon's re-election campaign. Initially, it seemed like a simple break-in, but as investigative journalists Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein of the Washington Post dug deeper, they uncovered a much larger web of illegal activities orchestrated by members of Nixon's administration. The scandal escalated when it was revealed that Nixon and his aides had actively worked to cover up the break-in, using tactics like bribing witnesses and hindering investigations. The discovery of secret recordings, known as the White House tapes, further implicated Nixon in the cover-up. As public trust in the government eroded, the scandal sparked widespread protests, leading to calls for impeachment. Facing almost certain impeachment and removal from office, Nixon became the first U.S. president to resign on August 9, 1974. Vice President Gerald Ford succeeded him and controversially pardoned Nixon for any crimes he may have committed while in office. The Watergate scandal exposed the dangers of unchecked political power and underscored the importance of a free press and the role of investigative journalism in holding government officials accountable. It also led to major reforms in campaign financing and government transparency. This conspiracy proved that even the highest levels of government aren't immune to scandal. 6. The Tuskegee syphilis experiment. Number 6 is one of the most horrifying examples of government abuse: the Tuskegee syphilis experiment. The Tuskegee syphilis experiment is one of the most notorious and unethical medical studies in U.S. history. Conducted between 1932 and 1972 by the U.S. Public Health Service, PHS, the study involved 600 African American men, 399 of whom had syphilis, and 201 who were healthy. The men were told they were receiving free health care for bad blood, a term used at the time to describe a variety of ailments, but they were never informed they had syphilis, nor were they treated for it. Instead, the PHS withheld penicillin, the established cure for syphilis, and allowed the disease to progress unchecked in order to study its long-term effects. The participants were misled and never given proper medical care, even after penicillin became widely available in the 1940s. As a result, many of the men suffered severe health complications, including blindness, mental deterioration, and death, and several transmitted the disease to their wives and children. The experiment was not halted until 1972, when a whistleblower revealed the truth, leading to public outrage. In the wake of the scandal, the U.S. government apologized, and the surviving participants received compensation. The Tuskegee syphilis experiment highlighted the deep racial injustices in medical research and played a pivotal role in the establishment of ethical guidelines for human subjects research. including the creation of the Institutional Review Board (IRB) system to ensure informed consent and prevent such abuses in the future. This inhumane experiment went on for 40 years before being exposed. It highlighted systemic racism and led to a massive overhaul of ethical standards in medical research. 5. The Pentagon Papers. Halfway through, we have the Pentagon Papers at number 5. The Pentagon Papers were a classified set of documents that revealed the U.S. government's deception and manipulation surrounding the Vietnam War. The documents, which were leaked in 1971 by former Department of Defense analyst Daniel Ellsberg, contained detailed histories of U.S. political and military involvement in Vietnam from 1945 to 1967. What the Pentagon Papers revealed was staggering. Successive U.S. administrations had misled the public and Congress about the war's progress and the true scope of American involvement. The papers exposed that leaders, including Presidents Lyndon B. Johnson and Richard Nixon, had privately acknowledged that the war was unwinnable, but continued to escalate it for political and strategic reasons, misleading the American people into believing the U.S. was winning. Ellsberg's leak ignited a major legal and political battle. The U.S. government attempted to prevent the New York Times and other media outlets from publishing the papers, claiming national security threats. But the Supreme Court ruled in favor of press freedom, allowing the documents to be made public. The Pentagon Papers played a pivotal role in undermining public trust in the government and fueled the anti-war movement, helping to eventually bring an end to the U.S. involvement in Vietnam. It also marked a significant moment in the history of government transparency and the power of the press in holding authorities accountable. This leak was a turning point in the anti-war movement and forever changed how the media scrutinizes government actions. 4. The Manhattan Project. At number 4, we have the Manhattan Project, the secret program that developed the atomic bomb during World War II. The Manhattan Project was a top-secret research and development initiative during World War II, aimed at building the first atomic bomb. The project, which began in 1942, was a response to fears that Nazi Germany might develop nuclear weapons first. The U.S. government assembled an elite team of scientists, engineers, and military personnel, including notable figures like J. Robert Oppenheimer, who became the scientific director, and physicists Enrico Fermi and Niels Bohr. The project spanned multiple locations, with the primary laboratory in Los Alamos, New Mexico. Over the course of the project, the team successfully designed and tested the world's first nuclear weapons, culminating in the Trinity test in July 1945, which was the first detonation of an atomic bomb. Shortly thereafter, 2 bombs were dropped on the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, leading to Japan's surrender and the end of World War II. The secrecy surrounding the Manhattan Project was so absolute that many of the people working on it didn't know the full extent of the project, or even what their colleagues were doing. The Manhattan Project not only changed the course of the war, but also marked the dawn of the nuclear age, raising profound ethical questions about the use of such devastating power and forever altering global politics and military strategy. This conspiracy wasn't just about secrecy. It was about creating a weapon that would change the course of history forever. 3. NSA spying on citizens. At number 3, we have the NSA's mass surveillance program. For years, people speculated that the government was spying on citizens. In 2013, whistleblower Edward Snowden confirmed those fears, revealing that the NSA was collecting massive amounts of data from phone calls, emails, and online activity, all without public knowledge. The NSA spying on citizens scandal, first exposed by whistleblower Edward Snowden in 2013, revealed the vast scale of government surveillance on American citizens and people around the world. Snowden, a former NSA contractor, disclosed classified documents that detailed secret programs under the Patriot Act and other government initiatives. These programs, like PRISM and X-Keyscore, allowed the NSA to collect and store massive amounts of data from phone calls, emails, internet searches, and social media activities, often without any warrants or oversight. The extent of the surveillance was staggering. Millions of people's private communications were being monitored, including those of foreign leaders, journalists, and even American citizens. The revelations sparked a global debate on privacy rights, civil liberties, and the balance between national security and personal freedoms. In the years following the leak, significant public outcry led to some reforms, such as the USA Freedom Act in 2015, which limited the NSA's ability to collect bulk phone metadata. However, concerns about unchecked surveillance and the potential abuse of power remain prevalent in discussions about privacy in the digital age. This sparked a global debate about privacy and government overreach, and the repercussions are still being felt today. 2. Operation Mockingbird. At number 2 is Operation Mockingbird, a Cold War-era CIA program to manipulate the media. Operation Mockingbird was a covert CIA program launched during the early years of the Cold War, with the goal of influencing media outlets to shape public opinion and further U.S. geopolitical interests. The program recruited prominent journalists from major newspapers, magazines, and television networks to act as informants, propagandists, and even spies. Media figures were paid or coerced into publishing stories that aligned with CIA narratives, particularly those promoting anti-communist sentiment and justifying U.S. foreign policies. It's reported that the CIA had direct influence over hundreds of journalists and controlled entire news organizations, including prominent outlets like the New York Times, Time magazine, and CBS News. Declassified documents and testimonies from whistleblowers revealed that Operation Mockingbird blurred the lines between journalism and state propaganda, undermining the free press. Although the CIA claimed to have ended the program in the 1970s, skeptics argue that similar tactics continue to be used today, raising ongoing concerns about the manipulation of media for political agenda. 1. The Church Committee Revelations. And finally, at number 1, we have the Church Committee Revelations. In the 1970s, this congressional investigation exposed widespread abuse by U.S. intelligence agencies, including illegal surveillance of citizens, assassination plots, and covert operations. The findings shocked the nation and led to major reforms in government oversight. The Church Committee Revelations of the 1970s were a landmark moment in exposing the clandestine activities of U.S. intelligence agencies. Named after Senator Frank Church, who chaired the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, the investigation unveiled shocking abuses of power by organizations like the CIA, FBI, and NSA. Among the findings were covert assassination plots against foreign leaders, including Fidel Castro and Patrice Lumumba, as well as the illegal surveillance of civil rights leaders, anti-war activists, and journalists under programs like COINTELPRO. The committee also revealed Operation Chaos, a CIA project that spied on Americans during the Vietnam War, despite the agency being prohibited from domestic activities. These revelations eroded public trust in government institutions and led to significant reforms, including the establishment of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, FISA, and permanent congressional oversight committees for intelligence activities. The Church Committee remains a powerful reminder of the importance of transparency and accountability in government operations. This conspiracy proved that sometimes the truth is stranger than fiction. And there you have it, the top 10 most shocking conspiracy theories that turned out to be true. These stories show that sometimes the wildest theories aren't so wild after all. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Thanks for watching, and remember, stay curious and question everything.